Hello, I want to do a quick video about a website, and since I can't mention the name of the website, let's just call it bxsmark.com. They've actually rolled out a new website, and another person recently made a video talking about how wonderful the website is and how they've vamped things up. And this website is the most awful, misleading, horrific website on the internet when it comes to gear, lens, or camera recommendations. It's just absolutely absurd. Their criteria that they actually talk about don't exist anywhere, nor will they give out the criteria for how they're actually able to rate a perceptual megapixel. There is no such thing as a perceptual megapixel. It's an arbitrary score that's given to lenses which has no empirical quanta relational to optics in any form of measurement, just none whatsoever. This website reminds me of a car grinder. It knows the price of everything, the weight of everything, but it knows the value of nothing. It's like if you were to feed a Ferrari into a car grinder that, chews them up and spits them into little cubes and analyzes it, and then you throw in a Ford car and it chews it up and it analyzes it and it checks out the criteria. You feed it in and beep 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 beep. 24% carbon, 50% plastic, 30% titanium, 40% magnesium, the end result would be is that since the Ford had more metal in it than the Ferrari, that the Ford Escort would actually rate higher as processed through this machine. Data processed. Compositional quality of aluminum is T6 grade. It's really ridiculous. Anybody that mentions this website, you just have to roll it out. Now, as a Nikon lover, I should actually love this website. The people that hate bxsmark.com are a Canon, and they hate this website. Why? Because Canons, the very, very best Canons, get rated really, really bad on this website, and Nikons are rated really high. So I should actually love this site, but I mean, to be perfectly subjective, I can't do that. There are so many egregious errors that if you were a noob, some new goof that, just bought a camera, you'd be like, well, this site does a lot of empirical testing, and they've even got some new flow charts to tell you where a lens rates, and they have a new chart, and it actually gives you a graph where each little lens is, and like, well, this lens is right in the middle, but this one's high. It doesn't tell you anything. Some of the most awful lenses score really high, and you have to wonder, what companies are actually paying this website, behind the scenes to rate. They can't tell you the quality. It doesn't tell you what it's good for, and the price of everything and the value of nothing. It doesn't tell you whether the lens is constructed well, whether it's a piece of crap, whether it's water sealed, what it's good. It doesn't tell you anything. Let's take one example on bxomark.com. This lens is one of Nikon's top 10 lenses ever made. Now, this is not the newer version. I've actually got a newer version coming. I found one cheap last week. It's optically the same. It's a 180mm 2.8 D series. They're rating the one that's right after this, which is the same optically, but has a slightly better construction on the barrel. They rate this as below average. They rated it basically on a scale of Nikon's top lenses. They kind of rate it at a percentage of about 45 or 48%, which is absolutely absurd. The image product out of this lens is nothing short of incredibly divine. If you're some noob that goes over there and doesn't know about lenses, most people obviously haven't owned many lenses. They have no idea, and you can't trust the person at the camera store because, they've got especially when it comes to like the Sigma Art series, which I forgot to mention actually has a higher retail markup. They have a higher profit margin, on the retail sales of like the Sigma Art series lenses. That lens actually also rates really high on this website. This lens, it comes out basically analogously as a Toyota Camry, when really it's a Ferrari. This is a Ferrari lens. Not speaking about its construction quality, well, this is the very slightly older version. The new version is slightly tougher. It's a D series. It's an EDIF, internal focus. It has a much larger manual focusing knob. It's a little bit smoother, slightly better construction, same built-in lens hood. It's got a different finish on it, but if you're to believe this website, this lens by their rating is a subpar lens, which is the most insane, absurd nonsense. Any pro shooter that knows anything about lenses know that this lens is supreme, divine, sublime, silk, sex, and sugar. Period. Flat out. I've either owned or used every Nikon lens made in the past 30 years, and when I go through this website, all I can do is laugh my frigging ass off. And yet there's another person that just made a video, you know, talking about how wonderful bxsmark.com's website is. Well, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. You know, of course, I'm more interested in episteme, empirical facts, than doxa, opinions. And of course, the contradiction to that would be, well, this website is absolutely nothing other than empirical facts. But that's not the case. It can't tell you the value of anything. It can tell you the price and the quanta of various measurable data, a few of which have absolutely no basis in reality whatsoever. A virtual megapixel does not exist. It doesn't exist anywhere. It has nothing to do with optics. It is one of their grading scores that they actually apply to lenses. Now, this website does sell stuff, so there might be a motive there. This website gets paid sponsorship from various unknown sources. You think that's I'm being paid by nobody's paying me, you know, to pimps. I mean, I get nothing if you buy this lens or if you buy a cheap lens, so I don't care. You know, as I mentioned before in a prior video last night, you have to think about what someone's motive is, what their experience is, and what their subjectivity. Let's say they have no subjectivity. They do have motive. They're selling stuff, okay? And goodness knows who else is sponsoring them. Okay, their experience, well, they've tested all these lenses, they have to know. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just like feeding one of these lenses through the grinder. Beep, 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 beep. This lens has more plastic. It has oh my god, it's ridiculous. It's the most insane. Now this lens, for example, let's give it, the list just is absolutely endless as to the insanity on this website. This lens comes out extremely high. Now this is a wonderful lens, I own it for a reason. It is damn fast autofocus, which they never take that into account on this website. Never. It has another issue that the 80-200 doesn't have. This lens has a crap load of glass in it. Now it makes damn sharp images, and it is an awesome frigging sports lens. This is the Tamron 70-200 2.8 with image stabilization. Okay? Or as I call it, VC, vibration control. It just means a vibrating element in there that actually adjusts for camera shake from handheld. But this lens is rated way above the Nikon, which they don't actually rate the 80-200. They give it a rank, but this lens ranks way above the 80-200. And it ranks incredibly high. What criteria is not taken into effect regarding this? Rendition. There's something called renditional distortion. Has to do with element count, dielectric capacitance, and light. You can see it. You can compare this lens to the 80-200. I call it iron face. It's where everything in the foreground and background is just matted flat. You can see it. If you ignore sharpness and you ignore contrast and you just look at renditional distortion, which actually isn't a criteria you'll find on any website, but it's what happens when a lens has too many glass elements in it. It's also partially due to the coating, but it's mostly due to capacitance, and the best lenses in the world can't correct for this. Zeiss, like stuff that NASA has put out, nothing can correct for this. I give you a link to the Leyden jar experiment showing that light is a dielectric capacitor. It's the same reason why people think that it's actually due to heating, but it's actually the same reason why if you stick a glass bowl in a microwave, especially back in the older days before they changed the composition of some of the glass bowls, the glass bowls would explode inside the microwave. People thought, well, that's just because of heat, it's got a hot spot, there's a defect. No, it's actually capacitance. It's the same reason the glass insulators on the power lines back in the old days when they used the glass, they still use glass insulators, but not like they used them in the old days, why they'd explode. When you actually, like the power would have a loss of power due to a lightning strike, and you bring the power back on, the glass would actually explode because it's a capacitor. So this really important aspect, which has to do with the actual image rendition, is not even mentioned on this website. Of course, nobody else talks about that either, so we could ignore that fact. This lens is incredibly sharp. It has a very fast autofocus system. I own it for a reason. It's a wonderful lens, but you can't take anything this website has to say as valid. They are selling stuff. They sell software, and they are, now I'm going to only state this peripherally, I know they're being sponsored by other people. Now, I should love this website because, well, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, they rate Nikon stuff incredibly high, camera bodies, compared to Canon. I mean, any Nikon person should just love this website. But, you know, I don't care if they rate Nikon way above Canon. You know, I care about facts. You know, there's no such thing as a perceptual megapixel. The fact that this website calls all current production Nikon, it rates it, you know, as like a 47%. This lens, if it were, you know, a test, you know, had a classroom of students taking a test, this lens scores slightly below the level of, you know, a dope smoking doofus, as so far as image quality, the rendition of what you're going to get. This lens is top 10. This lens is the genius, the Nikola Tesla of lenses. And yet, if you were to believe this website, most people don't know. You're like, I'm going to go to this website, and I'm going to see where this lens rates that I'm interested in. Now, well, all this is empirical data. I mean, everything is ranked by numbers, and, you know, they must have tested all this stuff, and they even tested the same lenses on several different camera bodies. It's meaningless. It's absolutely the most meaningless BS. I tell you what, one thing, here's a fact. Every pro shooter out there, when you mention this website's name, they roll their eyes and they either spit blood or they scratch their ass. Because this website is nonsense. Now, you could state all day long that this website is just full of empirical data, and therefore I'm full of crap, and, you know, I'm just envious of this website's data. And that's certainly not the case at all. It isn't the case. You know, I love facts. I love data. You know, I love the truth to get out there. I want to know the truth. But this lens can't tell you anything. It's just like feeding this lens through a grinder. It's like I was giving the analogy of feeding a Ferrari and a Ford through a car crusher. You know, it's processing and it's telling you actually what the output and the composition of the car is. And the same way that this website would actually rate a crappy lens as really awesome is the same reason like a car crusher would have taken empirical data reading and it would spit out that the Ford Escort was superior to the Ferrari. You know, there are certain qualitative aspects to lenses, some of which are measured by nobody, like renditional distortion. How fast is the autofocus? What can it be used for? What is its actual nature of image production? Realistically, experience counts for a lot. I can feed every lens through all of this empirical data that they supposedly have done. Of course, a virtual megapixel doesn't even exist, so nobody could feed that through anything. This is a phantasm, a unicorn, a leprechaun, you know, an angel of their own creation, which does not exist in any empirical form as pertains to optics. So that's complete absurd nonsense. But, you know, just never mention that website to me, okay? Because, you know, I've got nothing to do with it. I know it's nonsense. And the fact that they'll take, you know, one of the top 10, actually is arguably top 5 lenses that Nikon currently has, and they'll rate it as a retard. Like that. And there are many examples. This isn't one example. There are many examples like this. They'll actually take a top 5 or a top 10 like lens like this and say that it's the retard of the class. You have to roll your eyes. This is why pros roll their eyes about this website. Because you can't say crap like that about lenses like this. It's like, well, that's your opinion, and they did all sorts of empirical tests. But I call BS on that. It's just flat out BS. You know. And like I said, I should be happy about the website because it ranks Nikon bodies so high. But and Canon people really hate the website because they rate Canon bodies so very low. But you know, I just call nonsense on this website. I have nothing to do with it, and I know they're full of trash because you can't do stuff like this. And there are many examples regarding lenses like this. You just cannot do that. It's just absurd nonsense, insane, illogical. It is just bat crap crazy. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.